From a juice drop that looks like a carefully hand-painted motif, to a small insect that looks rather creepy under a microscope. Honestly, these amazing images would never have been seen if not for a microscope. But first though, let's look at this unusual, beautifully colored pattern that was observed under a microscope. If you've ever looked at a butterfly wing, you might want to think that we have uncovered all there is on that wing. But maybe you're just wrong on that one, because a single wing of a butterfly can reveal much more than you may want to think. In fact, if I told you that the picture you're looking at now is that of butterfly wings, chances are that you won't believe me. But this amazing painting is just what you get when you observe a butterfly wing under a microscope. The images were taken by photographer and biochemist Lyndon Gledhill, who managed to show the world the mesmerizing beauty hidden in butterfly wings. Our eyes are the most beautiful organs of our body, and they help us to appreciate the colorful world we live in. But I'm guessing you've never taken the time to understand how complex an eye is. Because honestly, when you look at the human eye, there's literally nothing out of the ordinary. But when the same is magnified under a microscope, you begin to see why our creator deserves some respect. One man who has dedicated his life to understanding the human eye is photographer and physics teacher Suren Manvelian. He has won the attention of the internet through his extreme close-up of the human eye under his project dubbed Your Beautiful Eyes. Indeed, through the project, we now get to see just how complex the human eye is, revealing much more than a naked eye can see. In fact, you might want to think this is an alien planet. What comes to your mind the first time you look at this image? Probably a nicely hand-painted motif from an experienced artist, right? But you'd be surprised that these bright colors have nothing to do with artwork or painting work. These beautiful colors represent drops of orange juice as seen under a microscope. Now, that may sound bizarre because we all know the color of orange juice. So how come the orange color appears to have some distinct colors of bright blue and green? In fact, you may not believe that the objects in the image you're seeing are what you consume. Honestly, if this is what orange juice looks like, I'm not sure I'll have the courage to take a sip next time. While the peacock is considered the most beautiful bird in the world, it turns out that there is a lot we miss in its beauty. And that's because our eyes can't even see the finer details of a peacock's feathers. But thanks to a microscope, we now have a chance to look at all the shimmering beauty hidden in the feathers of this magnificent bird. It's amazing the incredible beauty we get to see when a peacock feather is viewed under a microscope. Look at these uniform and fluorescent colors and tell me that it isn't stunning. Strawberries are one of my favorite fruits, and I'm not just alone. About 50% of children consider strawberries their favorite fruit. But did you know that this colorful-looking fruit hides a lot from all of us? Well, I know for sure if we could all observe a strawberry under a microscope, no one would allow this fruit to pass their throats. A strawberry looks very hairy, and its seeds, which lie on the surface, look wrinkled and scary. I know after seeing this image, a strawberry may not be on your shopping list the next time you visit the grocery store. Is anyone here getting as confused with this image as I am? Because I can't tell whether these are stones or some kind of a jewel. Just look at these objects that bear unique shapes and fluorescent colors and tell me what they might be. Well, as much as the image may be confusing, the reality is that it's something pretty common that you come across every other holiday. Can you believe this image simply represents grains of sand as seen under a microscope? Well, you kinda have to believe it because this is the reality. But I know all becomes clear once you study the composition of sand. The beauty in the image you see is a result of the very fine grains of crushed rock, coral, and sediments that make up the sand. While tomatoes might look beautiful in a salad or when used in various forms, it turns out that these smooth vegetables may not even be as smooth as you see them. There is quite a lot that we fail to see when we look at a tomato with our naked eyes. Believe me, the image you're looking at is that of a tomato observed under a microscope. And for sure, nothing is close to what we see with our naked eyes. This looks more like a creepy creature. You see what I mean? Look at those craters and strange growth in the image and tell me if this is delicious. Does anyone here know what this spiral thread filled with a bundle of filaments represents? I know you're probably thinking of the base of a light bulb or maybe a wire twisted on pieces of spindle. But forget about that. What you're looking at is a guitar string. A guitar string is a macro object, and it looks linear when observed with the naked eye, right? So what makes it appear like something strange here? Well, maybe because we've never thought of how a guitar string is made. Basically, different types of guitars are made with different types of strings. It could be nylon or steel wrapped in steel wire, or it can be steel wrapped in nickel wire. And that's what brings out this amazing image when a guitar string is observed under a microscope. Indeed, such incredible images are only possible thanks to the availability of electron microscopes. When you look at this image, the first thing that comes to your mind is some kind of metal strip or probably some teeth of a certain animal. But you'd be surprised the image in fact represents a shark's skin. That's unbelievable. I mean, who would believe a shark's skin could appear so rough and rugged under a microscope when we've lived to know that a shark is a smooth creature? Basically, the small metal strips or teeth you saw are simply shark scales or tentacles which cannot be seen with our naked eyes. However, when you stroke a shark back and forth, you'll realize that one side is rough and the other is smooth, proof that this beast has scales. The ridged scales help protect the shark from parasites and make the shark streamlined to swim faster and silently. You could be an expert at human anatomy, but you'd still be surprised that there is quite a lot you may not know about the human body. Take, for instance, this image. Can you tell with precision what parts of a human body this image represents? Well, if you mention something like a bone, then you got it right, because that is exactly what we're looking at. But it really does call for a keen eye to tell that this is a bone. The white holes you're seeing in the image represent the porous section of the bone. However, the compact section seems more complex. In fact, if you increase the magnification of the microscope, you get to see these small dark cylindrical holes which represent the osteon, whose function is to improve the strength of the bone. Our naked eyes miss quite a lot that we can't help, but marvel at the amazing discoveries we get when we use a microscope. Just look at this picture and try to guess what it might be. Well, if you guessed a potato, then you're a legend, because looking at this picture, the last thing you'd want to think about is food. But there you go, this is exactly how the inside of a potato looks when observed under a microscope. The blue-black colored areas represent the starch-rich sections of a potato. However, the color was achieved thanks to iodine staining. You can tell that if we all had this picture in mind anytime we eat potatoes, a majority of people probably wouldn't allow it to pass through their throat. If you ask me, this green image looks more like a deep-sea plant or some kind of underwater algae that was captured by a scuba diver on a GoPro. Or let's just say a strange landscape captured by a NASA mission on Mars. But then I'm surprised this chronicle flower-shaped image represents something you and I have heard of or interacted with more frequently. This is just an image that shows what a Romanesco cabbage looks like when observed under a microscope. It's no wonder it's referred to as the world's prettiest vegetable. Actually, the blisters seen in this image that convince you to believe that this might be celestial bodies are simply fractals of Romanesco cabbage. Well, since the vegetable doesn't flower, it results in fractals, which gives it a striking shape. And now it's time for our best pick. This image was sent to us by a subscriber. If you come across some weird-looking image on the net, please send it to us and we might even feature it in our next video. The image looks like a cave or just a hole dug in a mountain, but to some it appears like a well photographed from a given angle. However, the reality is that this is just a perforation of the skin by a mosquito bite. When a mosquito bites you, the hole left on the skin is so small that even your naked eyes can't detect it. But when the same spot is observed under a microscope, you get a surprise of a lifetime with how large the hole is. Indeed, observing things under a microscope can be interesting. Who knew spider silk can appear like this when observed under a microscope? Well, I'm guessing none of us, you included, because this incredible image does not show any relationship between what I'm telling you and what you're seeing. It looks like a bird's nest on a dry tree branch, or let's say human hair, right? But you have to believe me because the image shows a spider thread as seen under a microscope. One fun fact about spider silk is that it is 5 times stronger than regular silk. A queen ant looks pretty amazing to the naked eye, but I know it's because we never get to know the other side of the coin. Because if our eyes could have the high magnification power like that of a microscope, maybe we'd be scared off of this planet. The tiny creature, when observed under a microscope, is not so good anymore. Look at this devilish image and tell me if you wouldn't be scared if you met such a creature. Thankfully, our eyes hide all those spooky features, and we have our beautiful queen ant that just about anyone would like to lay their hands on. Thank you for watching.